So thank you everyone who's joining us today. We're just going to give it a few minutes before we get started to let everyone find their way into the Zoom. But while you're here, please feel free to put where you are from in the chat. I always like to know where folks are joining us from. It's interesting to hear, especially in the age of Zoom, all the interesting places you're coming from. Regina, Saskatchewan. Nice. I've never been, but I've always wanted to. Vancouver, BC. Are all of our panelists, are you all in Vancouver? Yeah, lots of nods, yeah. Cool. Lots of Vancouver. I just moved out of Vancouver. I live in Maple Ridge now. Semi-small, yeah, everyone knows Maple Ridge. I was hesitant about it, but it's been really great actually. We still just have people flooding in the waiting room, so just letting them all join in. We'll just give it one more minute. Hello from Vancouver. Awesome. Okay, I'll just keep letting people in, but I do think we can get started. And keep dropping where you're from in the chat. I'd love to hear about it. But I want to say thank you everyone for joining us today for VoyageHER, Navigating STEM Careers with Seaspan. My name is Ashley and I work at the Society for Canadian Women in Science and Technology, also known as SCWIST. And SCWIST is a not-for-profit organization that removes barriers for women and girls in STEM. And one of the ways we do that is with programming events like this one, where we highlight women in STEM and showcase the opportunities that a STEM career can bring you. And we have 3 women with us today, 3 leading women from Seaspan who you get to hear from firsthand, and then you'll also get the opportunity to ask them some questions at the end. Some rules of engagement for our audience. This is completely optional, but we always love it when you do turn your camera on and we can see your faces. And you can just drop your questions in the chat box during the conversation, and we'll address them during the Q&A. And I'd also like to say I am grateful to be hosting this virtual event from the traditional territories of the Katzie and Kwantlen First Nation. And I'd like to welcome our audience who are joining us today from the lands of numerous First Nations across the country. And now with that being said, I will pass the mic over to Seaspan for a quick introduction.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ashley. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the event. We're very excited to be participating here with everyone. So just for introduction, my name's Jasmine. I have a few of my colleagues here, as well as Melanie. We're both talent acquisition specialists. And I just want to do kind of an overview about Seaspan, just to give you some insight of who we are and what we do. So we are a recognized leader in shipbuilding, ship repair, and marine transportation. Next slide here. Wonderful. So just to go over our vision and our mission. So our vision is to be a recognized leader and a trusted partner in shipbuilding, design, repair, and conversion for Canada and our international customers. Our mission is to build best-in-class quality, unwavering teamwork, and continuous innovation. We deliver mission-ready vessels to the government and commercial fleets in Canada and abroad. So this just gives you kind of a high-level overview of all of our companies. So we're divided in 2 business entities. We have Seaspan Shipyards and Seaspan Marine Group. I always love the excuse to show pictures of our vessels and what we do. So this is just a nice overview here. But on to the next slide, I'll give you more insight into our different businesses. So we do have Vancouver Shipyards. So this is located kind of across the water from downtown Vancouver, and we do new vessel construction there. And then we have Vancouver Dry Dock. So this is, if you are familiar with Lonsdale Quay in Vancouver, BC, this is where we do our vessel service and repair facility. And then we also have Victoria Shipyards. So this is where we do ship repair and a modernization facility. This is where we may have existing fleets or ships from the Canadian government, and we do our best to modernize them and get them back onto the water. And then for Seaspan Marine, we have our tug and barge. So this is our largest and most diverse tug and barge company. We have ferries. This is our commercial ferry service. And then High Sea Marine, which is one of our new areas, which is our partnership with High Sea First Nations. And this is our first fleet of electric tug and boats. And now back to Ashley for introductions.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, so I'd love to move on to our introductions and get our panel up here. So we have 3 amazing women joining us today, and we'll go in this order for introductions, starting with Jennifer. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. Don't dive into your career too much because we will be chatting about that later. And maybe if you want, your favorite thing about working at Seaspan. So Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Bustler. I'm the Manager Innovation at Seaspan. I joined about 2 years ago. I came from the aerospace industry, so I won't tell you any more than that because we're going to talk about that in detail. But I'm the mom of 2 exciting teens. I've lived in the Vancouver area for about 20 years, and I'm really excited about working in the marine industry and in helping to shape the direction that's going in.
Awesome. Maureen?
Yeah, my name is Maureen Katarama, and I am currently in the position of a manager in the engineering and design systems here at Seaspan. I have been with Seaspan for about 7.5 years, and I work in the shipbuilding side of the business. And I'm excited to be here. And my favorite thing about working at Seaspan is, the excitement of seeing that ship sail off and, finishing that construction.
Awesome. And Amrit?
Yeah, my name is Amar Grewal. I am electrical engineering manager here at Seaspan. I have been at Seaspan for about 6 years. I immigrated to Canada as a student for my master's in 2009 and haven't looked back since. My favorite thing about Seaspan is it never gets boring. There's always something to look forward to the next day, and it's never the same. So looking forward to deep dive more onto that.
Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. All right. So I'm just pulling up my questions here. Yeah, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourselves. So I think the best way to get started with this conversation is to learn a little bit more about your career paths, as you each hold very different roles. So can you share the story of your personal journey into the marine technology and shipbuilding? And feel free to include some pivotal moments or decisions that led you to your current roles. And if it's all right, I will start with you, Maureen.
Oh, wow. Thank you. My introduction to shipbuilding was actually here at Seaspan back in 2016. I joined as an application support analyst, and I was very excited to be part of the team and to be joining Seaspan. But it didn't take long for me to realize that there were some hurdles that I needed to overcome in order to thrive in this environment. So first and foremost, I recognized that it was necessary for me to learn about the business. Shipbuilding was a new domain for me. I had been in banking industry, I've been in manufacturing, I'd been in educational institution, but shipbuilding was quite new. So it was important for me to learn about the business. Secondly, I needed to get acquainted with the systems that support this business. Gaining understanding of the underlying business processes was necessary, but what equally important was for me to get acquainted with the systems, the technology that powered these processes. And third, in terms of demographics, there are 3 dimensions to my identity. I'm female, I'm a person of color, and I'm an immigrant. And this categorization can sometimes unconsciously lead to biased assumptions, right? But these distinctive facets of my identity is what fuels me for my desire to succeed and be determined in whatever I do. So nevertheless, I was not only did not only get my foot at the door, I was actually in the house, and I wanted to play by the rules. I wanted to know the game. I wanted to know the culture. I wanted to get to know the people. And I understood that this journey was going to be a steep learning curve for me, requiring extra effort on my part. And in order to overcome these challenges, I embarked on a path of continuous learning. I utilized all the available resources, including, any documentation that I could come across. I did extra training just to get that knowledge to be able to thrive in this environment. I proactively forged relationships and sought to establish trust. And my goal was to bridge the divide between my technical skills and the specialized requirements of the systems. So 6 months into the role, there was a position that was open for supervisor in my department, and I expressed interest in it. Well, looking back, I think that was a tad bit ambitious on my part, but nevertheless, I went for it. I didn't get the role, and naturally, I was disappointed. However, rather than letting that discourage me, it just fueled my determination to continue to learn and grow. I was determined to prove that I was capable of much more than just sitting behind my desk and coding and resolving technical issues. So consequently, I took on additional responsibilities and I assumed ownership of various systems that were used in these processes. So eventually, I was promoted to a senior systems analyst. And as I progressed through this role, I took on a few leadership tasks. Most notable was being a technical lead on the implementation of phase 2 of our product lifecycle management system. And in this capacity, I not only contributed to the solution design, but I actively participated in the development work as well. And this project allowed me the opportunity to interact with various stakeholders, broadening my knowledge and giving me a deeper understanding of the shipbuilding process. Then my breakthrough moment arrived. After 4 years in my role, I received a promotion to the supervisor. So finally, I was able to sit at the dinner table in this house that I had moved in 4 years ago. And I didn't want it to stop there. So I wanted to do more. I needed to learn more. I wanted to be able to speak the same language. I wanted to have a deeper understanding of how my technical contributions aligned with the larger organizational framework. And this prompted me to realize that I needed further education. And it was at this point that I made my decision to take project management training and eventually obtain my PMP certification. So, and with this skill set, I not only gained insight into the rationale behind decision-making process, but I was also I contributed and drove some of these decisions, especially the ones related to technology. This undertaking also provided me a thorough understanding of project management principles, equipping me with the skills required to successfully run some of our most complex technology projects. So all this prepared me for my current role. Although it was challenging, I would say my journey here at Seaspan has been incredibly rewarding, and I aspire to serve as a role model for others, empowering them to pursue passions without any hesitation.
That's amazing. The amount of work and then effort you put into that to get to where you are today, that's really inspiring. I'd love to, Jennifer, would you like to follow up?
No problem. So let's see. I think any career plan is not necessarily, the way you intended it would go. There's a bunch of little dots on the map and they kind of look like this little chaotic, circle of things that you've done. And until you actually sort of have the opportunity to sit back and potentially reflect on what really drove a lot of those decisions, it doesn't always make a lot of sense. So, for example, my actual educational training is in astrophysics. So what is an astrophysicist doing in the shipbuilding industry, right? So the reality is when you're looking forward, you might not always fully appreciate what's really driving you. And now that I'm at a different stage in my career, I can kind of look back at some of those, pivotal moments and go, what's really driving my career and driving what I'm interested in is I just love working in multidisciplinary collaborative environments. I love that intersection of where the technology is pushing and providing solutions to problems that we have. I love the ambiguous space of, will it work? Has anyone tried if this will work? So, I've naturally kind of gravitated towards roles that are kind of pushing the boundary of technologies, pushing the boundary of what's possible, thinking outside of the box, working together on problems that we can't solve on our own. And then, the whole thing of like, then what makes that personally motivating? I love working on teams where I can't do this by myself, but at the same time, you can't do this without me, right? So there's just like these really interesting ways in which, even though you look back at it, I started in astrophysics, I went into imaging spectroscopy, and then I went into remote sensing, and then I went into, airborne surveillance, and then so there's like all of these really interesting kind of paths of activities that I've undertaken, pivoting towards doing project management, being able to steer the direction of technical solutions, understanding how to work with customers, what is the business around how technology goes from an amazing idea and clearly possible to an actual business solution that drives things forward. So I love sitting at all of those little interfaces, and I really do feel quite honored at being able to have had the opportunity to do that with current organization Seaspan, where I'm operating as a innovation manager. I get to kind of come in and look at what are some of these hard, beefy problems, what are some of the technologies that are emerging out, how do we potentially bring those in. What really attracted me to Seaspan and the marine industry in general is it's experiencing a rapid redefinition of what that is, right? There's this rapid growth, there's this rapid evolution. We're rebuilding what it is to be a shipbuilder in the 21st century in Canada. This means that there's just like a healthy appetite right now for innovation and tech adoption and multidisciplinary collaboration to try to like pull these solutions together, deliver them out, understanding how our customers' missions are changing. So it's just really an exciting place to be, right? Of being, because I'm in that mix. And then the flip side of that is that's personally rewarding. I get to exercise my curiosity. I get to learn new things. At the same time, you always think, well, what am I really bringing to the table, right? And so the advantage is, I have spent 20 years in the aerospace industry thinking about all of these same problems. So, innovation is commonly kind of a little bit of a dynamic, sometimes chaotic environment. So I'm kind of hoping that what I'm bringing into Seaspan and into the marine industry is this ability to sort of add some stability, right? In understanding how do you navigate through all of that art of the possible, all of those different kind of solutions, and make it kind of manageable, and you get to actually set those goals, and how do we work towards those goals. So for me personally, yes, my technical background really has driven a lot of what I've done and some of the key pivot points in learning new technical skills and applying those technical skills. But I would say also wanted to be involved. Oops, hopefully I wanted to be involved. There we go. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. And that's a really insightful answer. And, you sound like you have a fascinating career path behind you as well. Amrit, would you like to finish up?
Sure. So it's interesting, Jennifer and Maureen both talking about very similar things that I have experienced in my career here at Seaspan as well. So just building upon what Maureen said, I had zero experience in shipbuilding. I stumbled upon Seaspan. I was just reading an article about national shipbuilding strategy that's been sponsored and started by the government of Canada, under the umbrella which Seaspan is actually delivering the vessels to Coast Guard as well as the Canadian Navy. So that's how I looked up. I'm like, okay, so which are these shipyards? So I then looked at Seaspan. I'm like, looks interesting. Let's apply. So that was the extent of me knowing about shipbuilding. And 6 years ago, when I joined Seaspan, I was this very technically focused electrical engineer who knew electrical engineering, and that is all. And with the experience and the amount of interactions we have with customers, with other disciplines, with cross-functional collaboration, with the amount of innovation that we continuously do, and the amount of things that we try to figure out how to do, it's like a construction startup. So because of this environment where you are encouraged to come up with new ideas, I've been able to grow significantly. I feel I have learned more than I did in these past 6 years throughout that I did in my past like 8 years of my life. So that added, I've held, similar to Marines, very different roles in Seaspan. I started here as a contractor. Then I became a lead electrical engineer. Then I became a lead. Then I took on scope from a subcontractor. Then I hired a team of like 8 engineers. Now I've got a team of like 20 plus engineers. And now we're delivering to 4 different vessels. We have engineers spread across so many different programs. And I would say collaboration as well as continuous learning is what is really significant to me in becoming the engineer and the professional that I am today.
Amazing, thank you. Thank you all for your answers. Those were super interesting. It just makes you think about when you're younger and you think that careers are very linear, but then when you move into it, you realize, of course, it's not. It's so messy, and that's okay too, and that allows for a lot of growth within yourself. It's not more than okay. It's almost essential to becoming like a better person as you go through your career lifespan. Thank you all so much. That was fantastic. I'll move on to our second question, which is about mentorship. Mentorship plays a crucial role in the professional growth of many women in STEM and just working people in general. So can you tell me a little about if you have benefited from mentorship or acted as a mentor yourself? And Jennifer, we can start with you.
So I've been both a mentor and a mentee, or recipient of mentoring, both formally and informally. I've also benefited over my career with sponsors and sponsorship. And so slightly, a little bit controversial, I actually find that mentors have less of a role in your career advancement than sponsors do. So mentors are incredibly useful for changing your perspective or presenting an alternate view on a situation or decision. This can be significant for your own personal growth in understanding your own interpretation, helping you make decisions, and that can lead to professional growth. But my experience has been that it's sponsors that are speaking for you in rooms that you're not in, that understand your potential and that are engaged and are willing to put both business and social capital on the table to help you move forward in your career. They're really the ones that are unlocking things for you. They're the ones that are in rooms saying, oh, did you know that this person knows this thing and they could potentially be help. So my general, feedback would be, you have to build your support network in your career, right? And that is finding mentors that are going to advise you. They don't have to be in your field. They don't have to be in your role. But that they're there to kind of provide you with some additional perspective and advice. But you also need to identify and understand who your sponsors are, because they're the ones that are going to advocate for you when you can't be in the room. And you need to find your community, right? So these are the people you can be vulnerable with, that are going to give you strength, that are going to help set you straight. And you really need to understand who they are and build your network around that. And then you can really make use of those people who are really seeing your potential and they're willing to kind of give you the career lift, or that are willing to be your sounding board, right? And help you understand when you're in the thick of it and it's all chaotic and confusing, helping you kind of find a path forward, right? And so definitely I've had many amazing mentors, but it really has been sponsors that have really advanced my career.
And would you mind just taking a moment to dive into the difference between a mentor and a sponsor?
So a mentor often is someone who you will go to and you will maybe present a situation, or you'll have a regular conversation, and they provide you with advice, right? Oh, based on how I would interpret, or they'll provide you with a different perspective. Whereas a sponsor is someone who has already, recognized your career potential, and they're willing to put you forward and advocate for you when you're not in the room, right? So sometimes that's a manager, sometimes it's someone who is adjacent to you, but they see where your career is. They're sitting in rooms that you're not in. And so they're really sponsoring what you are doing. And so they're often a little bit more tied to your organization or to your discipline or field. Whereas a mentor can be anyone that's had a similar experience to you or something like that, and they can hit them.
Awesome. Yes, thank you for clarifying that. That's wonderful. Maureen, would you like to follow up?
Yeah, absolutely. And listening to Jennifer, I'm not sure whether I had mentors or sponsors, but I did have some informal coaching, and I must say that it was instrumental in strengthening my confidence and my self-assurance. As a woman working in this environment, can be very daunting, right? But I was fortunate to have leaders who've been not only my guides, but my champions, and empowering me to embrace the risks and challenges within my position, right? So I've had those advocates in my career that cheer me on and advise me in, whichever way to go. And I can confidently state that this current position owes a great deal to the outstanding leaders that I've had in the last few years. They've just guided me through my pivotal moments, helping me navigate my career and my roles and responsibility, and greatly impacted my personal growth. And I can, vividly recall my initial days on the management team. Back then, I prepared for meetings. However, during these discussions, I just remained silent. And it wasn't from a lack of ideas. I actually had plenty of ideas racing through my mind, but I just hesitated to voice them. I listened to my colleagues, engaged in discussions, and I sat there in silence, sometimes, silently applauding the ideas, and occasionally thinking, well, that's a terrible idea. That's never going to work. But I just never said anything. I never voiced anything to anyone. And gradually, I started to notice a change. And my boss was now beginning to single me out in these meetings, asking me for my input. Inwardly, I hesitated the attention, and I was like, no, please don't do that. But then I found my voice, and within me, I just started to feel comfortable during these discussions and started speaking more and more. And the more I spoke, the more comfortable I got, and the more I learned more, the more I researched more, and I wanted to participate in these conversations. And it struck me that what they were doing was actually getting me out of my comfort zone and providing me that safe space for me to express myself, because they knew I was capable of much more. They knew that I had ideas. I just wasn't voicing them, right? So for me, it's important to have those mentors or sponsors that can actually vouch for you. They can guide you through your career, and you can feel safe and free to speak with them. And I want to pay it forward with my team. I have a team of about 11. And what I do is I do regular check-ins with them. I wanna see how they're doing. And for me, regular check-ins is not just about what's the status of the task that you're doing. It's outside of that. Actually, I lead with a question of how are you doing. For me, it's important to get the task done, but it's also important to know how you're doing it. Like, are you feeling comfortable? Do you need support? What areas do you need help with? So just being that guide and a person that they can come to and feel free to express themselves, and also talk about their interests and aspirations. That's what I hope to be, to do with my mentorship and guidance throughout. So it's sponsorship, mentorship. I think it's all intertwined, and I agree with Jennifer. It's a mentor can be anybody. It doesn't really have to be your manager or somebody you work with, but somebody who can guide you through your career as you grow. And maybe a sponsor is that person that actually vouches for you in terms of this person is great at this and can actually take on these roles and believes in you and guides you throughout those roles as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, and it sounds like you've been on both ends of it. You've received that, and now you're also willing and ready to give that on to the next generation of people up and coming within your organization, which is great. Amrit, would you like to add anything?
Sure. So I just want to add a little bit of another perspective. So in my opinion, having a growth mindset and finding opportunities to learn is important to maximize the benefits of mentorship. And with this mindset, mentorship doesn't have to be one-on-one mentor-mentee relationship. In fact, you can learn from people within as well as outside of your organization, like Jennifer pointed out. I have immensely benefited from both direct as well as indirect mentorships. And at the start of my career, for example, I needed a lot of very specific technical mentorship, and I was fortunate enough to find these amazing wealth of knowledge senior electrical engineers, and learn from them. I would ask them to give me homework, if you will, right? And that relationship was a stepping stone for my career path. As I've continued to grow in my career, I've looked for mentors outside of the one-on-one mentor-mentee relationship. For example, asking for direct feedback from my manager, from senior leaders, my counterparts. That has really helped me gain insight into what kind of specific skill set I need uh, basically to do in order to further my career ahead as well as perform better in my current role. So I think both ways are pivotal to success, and I think the type and the need of mentorship will evolve as you progress in your career.
Definitely, 100% agree with that. Thank you. I'll have our third question here, and I feel this has been touched on a little bit, so I'm really excited to hear more about it. And it's, you were mentioning, well, I'd like to talk about technological advancements at Seaspan, and it sounds like they're always happening. So could you share how your teams are integrating new technologies and approaches to drive progress and stay at the forefront of the maritime and shipbuilding industry? And Amrit, I would love to start with you.
Sure. Like Jennifer and Maureen mentioned, there are so many exciting things happening on this front. With the help of actually recently established Digital Transformation Office in Seaspan, we are looking forward to implementing more efficient ways of completing the engineering work. We have a digital roadmap spanning until I think the end of 2024, which will tackle small to large size technology projects. And I'm sure Maureen can talk more about that, such as the ability to, just a small project like ability to look up documents in the document database more efficiently, to creating an issue management system which would make cross-functional collaboration more efficient. So I'll give you an example of something that we just recently launched within functional engineering. We launched an overall design process tool that will help us assess engineering design maturity at a point in time, as well as it will help us predict any engineering risks well in advance. This entire tool development took 8 months, and the collaboration of cross-function, as well as we took expert advice from overseas shipbuilders. And now we finally have a tool in place. That tool now is now in use and will become more powerful as we use it as we make continuous improvements to the tool. We're also looking ways to create engineering deliverables such that we can minimize manual data entry, because as well as manual data validations, because that is where shipbuilding is. It's looked at, it's very old. So we are looking for ways to become more efficient and we use these data analytics tools such as Power BI, and use data from old projects, use data from lessons learned to make more informed decisions in establishing new and leaner processes. We've as an engineering department, we have also established and adapted a new engineering and 3D modeling tool called Cadmatic, with which we can use one database to produce 2D as well as 3D drawings, as well as manufacturing instructions for a shipyard, which previously in older projects, we had like 7 different tools. So we are making continuous improvements. We are also working with the tool developer as well to make these continuous improvements. As for technological advancements, they are really continuous improvements. So we constantly pivot sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. However, this pivoting has really helped us in reaching where we are. And I see there's so many exciting things that are coming up for the new upcoming projects, and I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Sounds like you have a lot coming on. It all kind of sounds like you're in a good type of hurricane. You are the center eyes and you just have all this going on around you, and it's very busy, but you seem to have a great handle on it. Jennifer, would you like to follow up?
So as the title manager of innovation would imply, I am in the thick of it. So every day we're looking at and pushing forward on emerging technologies. So exactly what Maureen and Amrit are going to speak to. There's a ton of digital transformation happening across the organization. So the innovation is looking also at what are some of those longer term transformative technologies. So the most visible one is we're looking quite a bit at different visualization technologies. So augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality systems. So how do we use virtual reality to understand what the form factor of the vessel would look like, even though, you know, it spends anywhere from 3 to 10 years as a CAD file, right? So there's ways in which we can now start engaging with the CAD information and the design information long before we actually cut steel and make it in the yard. There's also ways in which we're using augmented reality. We're doing a pilot right now where we bring in a tablet and you can overlay the design on the current build status and be able to do checks and understand, you know, what are the next steps in the build process. So there's lots of ways in which visualization technologies are really opening up and making accessible many of the digital transformations that are happening in the day-to-day of the shipbuilding process. But what really brings me in every day is the potential for data science and the potential for digital twinning, right? This is transformative across the industry, not just for us, Seaspan as a shipbuilder, but really looking at how do we understand long-term maintenance cycles using, you know, real-time collected data that's analyzed over months and months and months, if not years of operation. How does that compare to what the predicted, you know, performance was from OEMs? These are complex assets. They have multiple systems that all need to work together in an integrated fashion. There's deep data that's associated with it. And we're really just starting to be able to collect, aggregate, clean, understand, and integrate some of those data into what we would then call a digital twin. So we're still a decade industry-wise from really being able to leverage digital twins, but we're getting started on it now. And like that's that, you know, what does this mean? Will it work? Does it work? How do we kind of get some of those initial things put in place? So we're quite active looking at digital twinning and data science. And then of course, there's the things that keep me up at night, right? And so we're also looking at, you know, greening technologies and all of those dialogues in and around decarbonization and movement towards zero emission solutions. This is something we're doing collectively across Canada. Our customer, Coast Guard and Navy, are very interested in where those technologies are going. This is a rapidly evolving space as well, right? As we're looking at, you know, evolutions in batteries, evolutions in potential future fuels, ways in which we can better manage energy production, energy use on the vessel. There's lots of different things that again start to interplay. So we're busy looking at where are those technologies going? How do they intersect with what we're doing in the here and now today? How does that potentially drive midlife upgrades and refits in the future? How does that potentially drive new designs that we're just starting to think about now? right? And so definitely, you know, I kind of live in that world where all of those emerging capabilities start to kind of come together with what, you know, the rest of the organization is working on towards building out and actually making things that float in 3 to 10 years.
Sounds like it's an exciting time and an exciting intersection. There's a lot going on. Maureen, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so from a business technology standpoint, priorities focus in two main areas, in cybersecurity and digital transformation, just like my colleagues have mentioned. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, we've embarked on several security enhancement projects. And just to name a few, we're in the process of designing a comprehensive cybersecurity governance framework that's really aimed at continually improving our cybersecurity program controls, ensuring that our cybersecurity initiatives are aligned with our business objectives, and ensuring that we maintain the highest standards of security controls across the entire organization. Also, in the area of operational technology, our operational technology network and assets are very crucial components of our infrastructure. Therefore, we're investing time and resources in a range of security controls, such as, you know, physically securing our equipment, implementing remote access management, comprehensive inventory and access management, firewall and network isolation, and, you know, external vendor access management. So these measures collectively safeguard our operational technology equipment against any potential threats. We're also in the process working to implement a privileged identity management process. This will ensure that access to our critical systems and information is tightly controlled and monitored, therefore reducing the risk for unauthorized access. In the area of data protection, we're implementing a robust set of measures around our sensitive information, preventing unauthorized access. Examples include things like you know, multi-factor authentication and data labeling. From an application security control, we're working on a plan to enhance the security lifecycle of our applications. And the approach emphasizes not only on the technical controls, but also a culture of security awareness and ownership among our teams. This ensures that security is embedded in every step of the application development process. From a technical control standpoint, we have implemented a comprehensive suite of technical security controls, including cutting-edge technologies such as firewall, intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, security operations center, and endpoint security program. So these measures are dedicated to safeguarding our network and assets, and also ensuring that we remain resilient to evolving threats. And from a digital transformation standpoint, my colleagues have mentioned some of the initiatives that are going on, but the overall purpose of this is to deliver business transformation and enabled by technology to meet our commitments to deliver ships on time and on budget, and also be in a better position to for the business to explore new business opportunities. And some of the big initiatives involve either redesigning or re-implementing our systems, and in some cases, acquiring new systems. One of the projects is a product lifecycle management system. And the goal for this is to build a configuration control engineering bill of materials. And the objective here is to provide engineers, designers, purchasers, planners, reliable and up-to-date information so that they can better support the business. And then the integrated logistics support, I think Jennifer mentioned, you know, part of this initiative, but we're building this tool that would be able to capture information from design to build to in-service support. And the second part of that process is collecting the data so that we can be able to maintain the ship to end of life, like in once it sails off, right? And then another big project is our materials planning initiative, materials management system. This transformation project will not only improve the cost and schedule predictability and execution, but will also provide simplified business model and system architecture that enables real-time and detailed operational and financial tracking of our plans and progress throughout our vessel construction. So these are just some of the initiatives that we are working on, and, you know, leveraging new technology in order to, you know, drive those business decisions and make sure that our processes are optimized and efficient.
It sounds like a huge gambit of things across the board and in so many different areas. Just sounds like Seaspan is very cutting edge. You guys, you're taking on a lot of different things and running with them. That's fascinating to hear about. That does bring us to the end of the panel part of our discussion, and we will be opening up to the Q&A from the audience. I've had some questions rolling in during our conversation, which is great. These will be open to anyone of the three who would like to answer, all three, one or two, anything is good. And I'll start with this one that came into me directly. And it would be interesting to hear from all three if you're comfortable answering. And it was saying, someone was asking, can you speak on your experiences of being a woman in what typically thought of as a male-dominated industry? Have there been roadblocks or issues, or has it been smooth sailing?
I can start.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Sure. I'll start in general. As an electrical engineer, I started my career in oil and gas, a male-dominated industry. I used to go to sites. Mostly, I would be the only female on that site in like minus 40-degree weather. However, I think throughout my career, I've had different obstacles. It really depends on what phase in your career you are, and you will face different types of challenges. And when I look back now, I look back at those challenges and see, oh, I could have handled it differently. Because you gain more experience, you gain more patience sometimes as well, to deal with some of these issues. At the start of my career, I think I was really grateful to have these mentors that provided me support when I needed it. So for example, I would get flustered going into the meetings and thinking about, oh, do I need to speak now? Do I need to speak later? So having like Maureen had given an example, having your leader encourage you to speak really empowers. So I think that I found really empowering from anywhere, any workplace that I've worked in. I've worked in oil and gas, mining, power generation, power transmission, and now in shipbuilding for the past 6 years. I've sat at different tables. I think the first advice I would give to any woman, anywhere, is go and sit at the table. Never find a back seat. So that establishes it's just in our mindsets. I've seen like there's a big meeting room with like 30 people, and people tend to sit, women especially tend to sit at the back seat. No, come and sit at the front table. Just do it. Just try to do it. Just make that initiative, and just one change at a time really helps make an overall change. And find your allies, I would say. And it's not about mentorship, but it's about allyship as well, in your colleagues as well as in your managers. If something is an issue to me that I find challenging, I go and speak to that person directly. And most likely than not, it's most sometimes in my mind. So I think breaking those barriers and speaking out has really helped me break those stories that I've been telling myself as well. And yes, it is challenging. However, I have seen from these active changes, I've been able to gain more confidence, and as well as find my voice. If anybody else would like to add on to that, sure. But that's what my experience has been.
I love that. I love the idea of sitting at the front of the table. Don't relegate yourself to the back. Yes, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that. I agree with what Amrita said, but also I think for me, I think what brings out the confidence is also knowing your stuff. You are not going to be able to confidently speak to people when you don't know what you're talking about. So I think just taking time to learn the culture, learn the environment, learn the industry, be knowledgeable, that would help you to, kind of have those discussions, and also finding the people that you most comfortable with and asking them to, sort of help you in your career. I think that's important than just being silent, and getting those champions to, kind of cheer you on and be able to listen to you. But finding your voice is very important, and you don't find your voice until you know what you're talking about.
Wonderful, thank you. Jennifer, would you like to add anything?
So I'll add, so 30 some years into my career, it's all been in male dominated environments. To sort of riff off of some of the ideas, yes, you gain more patience, but ultimately you actually gain more impatience as well, because you realize you've got a reason to be in that room and this is just interfering with what we're all there to do. So there's kind of a combination between those two things. Allies, definitely identify who your allies are. But when you're working in a male dominated environment, what you're really doing is you're fostering cultural change. You are standing up as, an underrepresented person in that environment, and you have to be willing to challenge what their assumptions and biases are around what your role success looks like, what your capabilities are, why you're sitting at the table in the front row, wherever, right? And so we're busy in the process of cultural change, of understanding what does success look like, what is an engineer, what is a manager, what is a supervisor, in those kinds of environments. And we will always be challenging, we'll always be challenging their assumptions. So good, keep doing that, because that's the only way that you actually push forward those cultural changes. And, sit at the table, don't take no for an answer. All of those kind of, grit and resilience kind of stories definitely come into play. But it's a challenging environment to be in.
Wonderful, thank you. Those were really great answers. I can feel myself pulling quotes out to think about again later. We have a lot of really great questions coming in. I'm just scrolling through. I'll take this one at random. How do paternal duties, maternity leave, taking care of children during sickness, etc., impact your career? How do you find the balance, a work-life balance? I guess we could even turn it to.
You work at it. It's not easy, and everyone has a slightly different perspective on what that looks like. I would say my largest career gains were made when my children were young. So it's like that perfect storm, right? Of, you're busy trying to raise new humans while at the same time you're busy trying to advance your career. Everyone's putting different expectations on you. Many of those expectations are new. And so you're kind of doing a lot of personal growth at the same time. So I'll go back to find your community, right? Find your allies, find your sponsors, find your mentors, find the people you can be vulnerable with that you can just break down and go, I can't do this anymore. And they shore you up, right? Find your support network. That's really how you really strive for the work-life balance. And then reward yourself, recognize that who are you doing this for, right? You're pursuing your career for your own personal interests. If it's not rewarding to you, sit back, talk to a mentor, think about, is this really the direction you want to go? Is that the priority you want right now? Sometimes we feel like we have to respond to every priority as if it's the first priority, and that's not always the case, right? Sometimes you have to set it aside, see that as a lateral move, or set it aside and say, I'm going to pick that up later when I've got more time to focus on it. So, but everybody's experience and everybody's answer to that question is different.
Yeah, I love that. They always say raising a child, you need a village to raise a child. And I feel like you kind of showed us that we also need the village to raise yourself in your career and when you're going through all those things at the same time. We are a little tight on time, and we have a few more things. I'll ask one more question and then we'll have a few more words from our folks at Seaspan. We have Chris. He says, what in your view are the largest barriers preventing women from achieving successful STEM careers at Seaspan? Are there barriers preventing women from achieving successful careers at Seaspan?
I'd say I don't think there is barriers. I think you need to find the right opportunity and need to understand what the demands of that role are. And if there are any gaps to be filled, then work with your manager or with your supervisor to fill those gaps. For example, I'll give you my example. Before becoming a manager, a people manager, I was a lead of a team, and I expressed my interest to my boss. And I very openly said, I want your job. So tell me what I need to do. And he said, okay, I will train you for it. So we came up with a very specific plan that him and I worked for about a year. And I had to take some trainings. I took some direct feedback. I went to career progression seminars, as well as I worked on myself. Before I become a people manager, which is really nurturing other people's careers, I need to understand what are my motivators and how I can, once I'm motivated, that's when I can motivate somebody else. So I think sometimes being as open as I was is really the pathway to breaking your career. And not breaking, I mean making your career. And yeah, I think I don't think there is any barriers, but I would say to each role there are always gaps. For me to move up to another role, there's always gaps that need to be filled, and we as individuals need to work on those gaps and understand what those are. And perhaps, and within Seaspan, I've always found that I have always been encouraged. If I am willing to work on myself, if I'm really willing to show that I am interested in gaining more work, there's never shortage of gaining of more work. So so yeah, that's really my summary of how I have become a manager at Seaspan.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like real quickly, I think it's not barriers as such. I think it's being bold and being able to go and ask for what you think you deserve, right? I think a lot of people are afraid to speak up, and they're afraid to, express interest, thinking that being afraid of rejection. So like I said, you have to understand what you're doing, you have to be knowledgeable, and then be able to speak up when the opportunities present themselves and say, look, I'm up for, I think I qualify for this job, and state your reasons why. And having leaders that are open-minded will kind of extend that, job to you if you express interest. Maybe they just don't think that you're interested, and some of them, some people don't believe you until you prove yourself, and some people prove, you do it, and then you prove either you can do it or not by offering you the job. So I think just being able to speak up, and when opportunities come, and not being afraid to ask. Yeah,
the only barrier is yourself, for lack of better.
exactly.
There's nothing else in front of you. You're working on yourself and saying that you want it, and then you can forge your own path there. We are getting close to the hour, so I'm just going to present my screen quickly so that we can have a few closing words from Seaspan as well as myself. So here we go. I'll pass it over to Jasmine, I believe, or Melanie.
Yeah, I'll just be taking over here. So yeah, great presentation and great discussion. So just wanted to highlight our careers site. So we do have a QR code here that you can visit to see all of our job openings. And just some on the left, actually we have on Jennifer's team, we have a role, and then on Maureen's team as well, we have a few roles that we're currently hiring for. So if you know anyone that would be a good fit, just asking for you to all visit our website. And, we're constantly hiring here at Seaspan. So, if there's nothing at this time now, there definitely could be something in the future. So just wanted to highlight that.
Awesome, thank you. And you sound like a great crew to work with. So yeah, please everyone grab your phones and scan that code. I just want to say thank you so much to Seaspan and our panelists for joining us today and sharing your insights. It was truly fascinating. And I also thank our audience for being here today. Hopefully you learned something as well. And feel free to connect with myself or Seaspan, and we would be happy to answer any follow-up questions you have. I know we have some more in the chat, and I'll try to get those to the right people as well. So thank you everyone so much, and just enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.